Okay, so fun. We have a few weddings here. This was Melanie and Michael's. They were actually one of my I think they signed their contract before the resort was ever open. So this was we had one of the very first weddings here on property. I can't remember when they signed their contract, but it wasn't even open when they signed their contract. And I loved their photography. I thought it turned out great. They had their wedding at the Zilara gazebo, which sits right in between the two properties. Back in the day, you could have your wedding at the Zilara gazebo and have your reception at the rooftop. You cannot do that anymore. You have to
Why is
be.
that?
Hmm?
Why is that? I never actually asked why that was.
Something with they wanted to have the space, meaning if they were doing a wedding at the Zilara gazebo, they didn't want people from that wedding walking over if there was an event at the Ziva gazebo. They sort of felt like they said essentially if somebody was having a wedding at the Zilara gazebo, then they had to block everything off. They couldn't do the beach or the Ziva gazebo, and they just decided that they didn't, it became in the beginning, the resort was just getting underway, and then, they didn't have these restrictions, but now it's a very popular resort. So they had to make sure they had space open. Um, so you basically could have a wedding at the Zilara gazebo and then do your reception at one of the lawns in Zilara or whatever, and they could still have a Ziva wedding going on at the gazebo and then use the
Gotcha.
rooftop terrace. Um,
Gotcha.
so they've changed that a bit. This was Tierney and Carrie's wedding. They did a beach. Again, you can see at the bottom. Again, it was beautiful. And they did their wedding in June. And there was a little bit of seaweed because, again, it's Mother Nature. And sometimes in the summer, we get a little bit of seaweed there. You can't even tell because the beach is so expansive. Like some of these beaches in Riviera Maya are very narrow. So if you want to have a beach wedding, and we're talking Riviera Maya's in Mexico, if somebody says to me, I want a beach wedding, I already know I have to take off like a whole bunch of properties because there's going to be seaweed in the pictures. This
Yeah.
is one where even if there's a little bit of seaweed down at the beach, you can't even tell because the beach is so expansive.
Yeah. We were there in June. We did like our what do they call it? Like big day planning where you can like preview and meet the vendors after you book and put your deposit down. We were there in June of 2023 and there was a lot of seaweed, but when we went in February, there was none. And I was on the Facebook group with like 30,000 people that all they do is talk about is there seaweed, is there not? And there's just no way of knowing. I mean, I live in Florida. One day the beach is beautiful, the next day it looks like trash. So it's just one of those things. But like Andrea said, with how wide that beach is, there's no way you would be able to tell from pictures unless you got married 5 feet from the water, which you won't on that beach because it's, so wide.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's why this makes it's perfect. It doesn't matter what time of the year that you do it. If you want to have a beach ceremony, you don't have to worry that you're going to have seaweed in your pictures. Oh, and here's Rachel and Clay. Look how pretty.
I'll
So
ever look.
I love it. Now take me back. So again, what it's so beautiful. They did a beach wedding, and theirs was we had a little bit of a threat of rain. The rain held off. The pictures still look amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I feel like it's better when it's overcast usually.
yeah,
Get
yeah, the
that.
lighting is great, and I love her. I love the dress. Absolutely love it. But they did their beach wedding, and they did it on the you did it on the Ziva side, and then did you have your reception? Was that on the Ziva side? Now I'm forgetting.
We got married on the Ziva side in between the two gazebos, and then our reception was on the Waves lawn at Zilara, the adults only side. So, and honestly, like I've been in the Facebook groups with past brides and future brides, and there's nobody else that is in that group that has got married on the Waves lawn. So I started to think like, what were we bizarre? But we didn't know if we were going to have 90 or 120 people. It was somewhere in that range. And once you hit that like 75 to 85 mark, you really, your intimate options run out and you have to go to the bigger spaces. So we were between the Waves lawn, which was amazing, or that big convention center lawn. I can't remember what it's called, but it was almost
Yeah.
too, it would be so hard to make it feel intimate. So we loved the Waves lawn for anybody that's thinking about getting married there. I think one of the reasons a lot of brides don't pick it, or I would assume, is because it is in the middle of the resort. So technically, like guests can walk by, but we're at an all inclusive. So if somebody wanted to crash our wedding, it's not like we're paying extra for that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't really worried about if somebody randomly walked up. We had enough people where they would blend in, and that wasn't an issue at all. Most people staying there have enough couth to know, like, you know what I mean? It's not one of those rowdy resorts. So being in the middle of of that lawn, it's in the middle of the resort, didn't bother me at all. I kind of thought it was fun.
Yeah, let me see if I can go back real quick and I'll just show where that is because I don't know.
Yeah.
So right here.
Mm,
So that's where Rachel did her wedding. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the
yeah.
Zilara gazebo. This is the Ziva gazebo. So when you do your wedding at the Ziva gazebo, then you have access to this rooftop terrace, which is what Rachel used for her rehearsal dinner. But this has a limit of they say 80, maybe 85 if you're lucky, but that's it. So when you have a bigger wedding, that you cannot do that up there. So that's the first thing I tell people. But this lawn turned out beautifully. And what I love, these are big steps here, up here. Well, you didn't know, Rachel, because you're at the wedding, but when I was there, I was sort of standing up here getting pictures, and there was lots of people just sitting up here watching. Again, they're not intruding; they're just watching what's going on. So to me, it was a beautiful, beautiful reception. I loved it.
At
Um,
nighttime with the bistro lights, like they really changed the look of it, and it was perfect for us.
yeah,
But I do understand people wanting a more private experience, so that's just going to be like, bride to bride.
yeah, yeah. Well, and they were treated with the rainbow, which I mean, how perfect is that? It almost looks photoshopped. It's ridiculous. So no
Nobody believes me that
rain.
it's real.
I know it's crazy. So anyway, that's pretty neat that they were able to have a rainbow. Okay, and so I took this picture. So again, this is a real picture. This is the Larimar, or not the Larimar. This is the Waves lawn. Um, this was their setup. So they have obviously the bistro lighting. That's going to be extra cost. That was not included.
Correct.
That's not going to be. So, these are some of the things that can start to add up. But again, beautiful area. And I agree with Rachel. For the amount of people, it was like it felt intimate, but there was plenty of space for everything. So to me, again, perfect location. And look at this food. Like the
Yeah,
food setup was amazing.
I know. I was so impressed with that. I didn't even get to see most of it until after I looked at your pictures after the wedding because I was so overwhelmed. But the food presentation itself was,
Yeah,
noteworthy.
I know.